Okay, so good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining in the uh, April meeting of Driving Digital Transformation Special Interest Group as part of Indus. So, as I had written in the email and also on the WhatsApp group, the conversation today is going to be about what do you do to be prepared after the lockdown is completed. So, we know as a
కొద్దిగా
matter of fact,
ఇమ్మీడియట్ కాకుండా ఎక్కువ డిస్టర్బ్ చేయండి.
sorry. Okay. So what is it that we need to do or we should be looking at doing once we are out of the lockdown, right? So it is not a matter of if this lockdown will end, it is a matter of when will this lockdown end. Hopefully on the date that the government has already announced, we should be out of the lockdown and the business activities should resume. One of the things that all of us know as a matter of fact is that uh, when the uh, when the activity resumes, you will not get to full 100% productivity. I am sure that there will still be restrictions in terms of movement. There will still be restrictions in terms of what you can do, what you cannot do. There will be still restrictions in terms of the number of people actually coming into the factories and offices. I'm sure there will still be expectation that you will have to practice safe distancing and all of that. So that is something that we need to be prepared about as well. Now, having said all of that, I think as businesses, we also need to take care of the business health. So far, right from the time when the entire thing, the coronavirus broke out, from then till now, what we have been looking at is taking care of our and our loved ones' health. So I think now it is time that we will have to also look at the health of the organization that we support. Now, I want to take a quick question here. Maybe if you want to unmute yourself and respond, you can do so. If you want to put your response on the chat, you can do so as well. So, what do you think is the most important thing that every organization is looking to do going forward from now? So, I'll just wait for a minute or so. What do you think? I mean, if someone wants to unmute and speak, please feel free to do so. Otherwise, put your answers on the chat. Between now and maybe 1 month from now, and sometimes already, what is it that organizations need to do to take care of their health? Anyone? This is what they call deathly silence. So I do not know whether I've told this before in this room, but yeah, maximum organizations will decentralize the goods movement. Yeah, so that's one very important thing because supply chains probably been the most impacted from that business perspective. BCP to be strengthened, absolutely. That is something that they will look at. Organization will try to come back. What do you mean by try to come back, Saronan? Meaning come back to operational strength, come back to full manufacturing strength. Yeah, okay, cool. Anything else? Do you see organizations also trying to uh, uh, put in measures which will actually be looking at cost cutting or figuring out how they can actually survive this current situation and thereafter looking to grow, right? So in terms of crisis, so I'm just going to go very, very low tech today, just so that, just a new way to try and think about how we run these sessions. So extremely low tech as a paper and a pen, right? So in times of crisis like this, one of the things that every organization will need to do is to conserve cash because cash is the bloodline of any business. You may not run out of business because you don't have customers. You may not run out of business because you don't have, a good product, but you will run out of business if you have run out of cash. So first and foremost, every organization today will look at conserving cash. Cash is king, queen, and everything else in between. Because I know of almost every organization that kind of goes bankrupt or that dies because it no longer has cash to support their ongoing operations. So knowing that cash is that important, what is it that organizations will typically do? I'll tell you what is the typical response of an organization in situations like this. The situation like this, the organization typical response is to cut cost, left, right, and center. So they will cut cost for, uh, 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 you know, in terms of projects, in terms of headcounts, freezing of headcounts, reduction in terms of salary, not paying out bonuses, not hiring anymore, firing people or letting go of people. So all of that continues to happen. But what, according to me, needs to happen is three things. Number one is you need to reduce cash outflow. Second is you have to increase cash inflow. And last but not the least, whatever cash is already deployed in the business, you need to actually be able to increase the return or improve the return on that cash employed. So what do we mean by that? So uh, when it comes to cutting costs, some of these, not all cost cutting measures are the same. When it comes to addressing times of crisis like this, it is most important to address cash outflows first, because whatever cash you already have, you need to conserve them. So far we've had lockdown of or quarantine of people. Now it's going to be quarantining your cash outflows or cash reserves, so to say. So the first thing that organizations need to do is to conserve cash. And even before that, one of the things which is extremely critical, which we should never forget and which we should never allow to be getting out of focus, is identifying things that actually provide value in your entire business to your customers. What are some of these sources of value that we have in our businesses that are extremely critical? We need to make sure that we do not jeopardize them. We do not address them. We do not, kind of hit them. Instead, we need to find ways to augment them, because these are what will actually bring in additional cash flows inside of your business. And that is probably one of the most important things that we can do, right? So what we are going to do is a quick activity right now. So I have on the chat, I have put a link. Let me put the link again on the chat. It is a link to a mural whiteboard. So it's like a online whiteboard. And what I want you to do is actually click on that link and come to the whiteboard. You should all be able to, once you click on that link, you should be able to join the whiteboard as an anonymous person. So let me share my desktop so that you are able to see what you will need to see once you come there. Guys, can someone actually tell me that you are able to see my screen? Can someone confirm that you are able to see my screen?
Yes, we can see your
Yes,
screen.
we can. We
Okay,
can see that.
so can you see the mural?
Yeah, yeah.
I can already see, okay, I can already see there are 4 or 5 of you joining the mural. So if you, at the left side corner, if you see this, there is this white post-it notes that are available, right? So what I want you to do is take a post-it note, bring it up here and type in, what do you think in your organization are the most critical value adding activities that you should not be jeopardizing when it comes to either cost cutting or cash flow reduction. So if you are a professional services company, I'm sure people are your biggest assets. So how do you make sure that you do not use this opportunity and cost cutting to hurt yourself by letting people who can actually bring in additional revenue or additional cash in, to let them go? So what do you think are some of the activities that for your organization is extremely critical, that you need to be very, very focused on not allowing it to kind of go for waste? So you can see this, right? So you just bring a post-it note from left to right and just start typing. So take care of people. So this could be one, right? So what else? So this session will be useful and as long as everyone participates. So if no one participates, I can run through whatever I've prepared in like 20 minutes, and it'll be a nice to have heard about it, but would not mean much for all the participants. So you need to participate. I see some message on the chat. I'm not able to post it. Okay, Amit, let me just try and see. Can you tell me which you're logged in as what? Anonymous bee, anonymous owl, rabbit, or koala?
I don't know. What is that?
At the bottom, when you logged into the mural, you would have given a name, right? So can you just move your mouse once you've logged into the mural?
Okay, because I had to leave in between and then I had to restart. So I don't know this. Yeah?
Okay, so let me just put the chat, put the link again. So
Link
you need
is
to,
not a hyperlink which you have. It's come as a text. No?
yeah, you have to copy paste. Yeah, you have
Yeah,
to copy paste.
yeah. In some
Just
cases, the copy paste is working, but
Copy paste where?
anyways, copy paste into a browser,
Okay, okay, okay.
into your browser.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can see someone is already moving post-its. So if you can also enter, pick something and type in something. Yeah, okay. Organization-wide changes will be there. Yes. So just pick something from the left, pick a post-it note, bring it up, and just start typing. On the left top corner, there is a text button at the top corner on the left.
Yeah, yeah.
On the left top left corner, yeah. Yeah, okay. Let's just give it another minute so people are actually getting the hang of it. Yeah, reassess work from home policy. Okay. Yeah, do not fire people. That's right. Okay. Go through with the present goods that they manufacture. Okay. Reassess supply network. Yeah, absolutely. So they want to de-risk the entire supply chain in order so that something like this doesn't happen again. So that is true. Anyone else? Yeah, new product development will be important for almost all the organization. That's absolutely right. Yeah, DSCM, digital supply chain. Yeah, that's true. So, by the way, today's session will not be anything about SAP products or any SAP technologies as such. So, because this special interest group is about driving transformation, we will only focus on how do you actually drive organizational change inside of your organization. Of course, there will be some places where we can talk about technology, because technology will definitely play a role in organizational transformation going forward, but not necessarily. If you want, I can still touch upon which products from SAP actually can help do some of the things that we're going to talk about. And subsequently, we can organize sessions which actually can go deep into each one of those technologies as well. Yeah, reassess the current setup, vendors, infrastructure, everything will be looked at with a lens, right? So every single expense that you will have on your expense sheet will be relooked at, whether it is your infra, whether it is your salaries, whether it is your new hires, whether it is your existing manufacturing facilities, whether it is your existing inventory, whether it is your vendor payment, whether it is your supplier payment, whether it is your customer outstandings that you need to receive. Every single item which has an impact on the cash flow of your organization will be looked at by your CFO and by your CEO with a very, very strong lens, right? So as I said, three things that needs to be done in a crisis situation like this for every single organization. First one is reduce cash outflow. Before that, understanding what is the key value chain that you as an organization drive to get cash into your organization, so that which is your organizational key capabilities or value chain. Make sure that that doesn't get impacted. Once that is clear, all you can do is these four things, right? You can eliminate certain cash outflows. What do I mean by eliminate certain cash outflows? Let's assume that there are certain things that you had planned for buying. So you will immediately kind of cancel those orders. You will find that that's going to happen. There can be subscriptions of services which not many people are using. So those subscriptions will be stopped. Anything which is as a service and depends on how much you consume or pay as you go model will be looked at, and which is not required or which is not adopted well enough will get eliminated. So given that you know of what happens in your organization, what costs do you think, or what cash flow items do you think in your organization can be completely eliminated without hurting the value chain of your organization? If you want to use this on the mural, please put up your points there. If you're not comfortable with the post-its, you can also just simply bring in the text and just type. So either ways is okay with us. So all we need is, what do you think you can eliminate from your existing cash structure? So I'm going to keep going back to Zoom and Mural, just so that I'm also seeing if there are any questions on the chat. Internships will be looked at, correct? So no more new internships. New hirings will be frozen, right? So that's a clear, but that's not eliminate, right? Because that's delay. You will not stop hiring for all eternity. You will stop hiring for now, right? What I'm asking to do right now is, what can you eliminate totally? So eliminate is whatever payments that you need to make, or whatever procurement that you had thought of, or already which you are expected to pay in the next maybe week, 10 days or 15 days. You will either eliminate that if you can. Subscription services can be one. Offers sent out in the market already might be withdrawn. Yeah, process automation will come in place, but that's at a later point in time. We'll come to that as well. But the point is, any cash flow which can be eliminated will be eliminated. Any payment that needs to be made for things that are right now luxury. For example, if you were contracted to go and attend a conference, a paid conference, Sapphire, let's say, for example, so that will get cancelled. So no outflow there. If you were thinking of hiring a consultant to look at your existing processes, maybe that will get eliminated for now, because you'll not hire them right now. So the second thing that will happen is you will start delay, whatever cash outflow that can be, or renegotiate terms and conditions so that you are able to pay either in terms of EMIs, in terms of staggered payments, or in terms of delayed payments. So for some, it could be like, okay, we will pay in 3 months, 3 months from now, which is renegotiating your term from 30 days to 90 days or 90 days to 120 days. Delay could be, okay, instead of paying it in one shot, I will pay you in 10 shots or 3 EMIs or 4 EMIs. So the entire idea is to conserve as much cash as possible today so that you are able to run your operations enough so that you are able to build your products, so that you are able to build up inventory which you can then go out and sell into the market. That is probably the most critical thing that you will actually do today, right? So once you have relooked at that, so if you actually, I do not know how many of you follow Gartner and some of the webinars that they do. They held a webinar yesterday around 10 ways to cut costs in a way which is smart for IT leaders. So if you want, you can actually Google that and you will arrive at that. And one of the things that they talk about is cost cutting, cost optimization, and then value optimization. These are the 3 things that they talk about, which is what, in a way, if you look at it, I'm talking about as well. But the only difference being, I'm not talking about cost as in cost, I'm talking about cash, because I think cost cutting tends to be emotional, and most of the times when you're cutting cost, you also cut costs where you should not have cut costs, because you by doing the cost cutting, you also lose some of your value creation abilities. So once you've done that, then comes generating cash, which is increasing your cash flows. So just a quick shout out. Are you still able to see the paper that I'm sharing on the camera? Can you see that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Fully, right? Not, okay.
Not half.
Half, is it? Can you see full?
Bit. Yeah. Now it's clear.
Yeah. So if you look at it, one of the things that will happen is organizations will look at existing assets and look at assets which can be either sold so that brings in cash, so that you have the runway to run your organization for a little more longer, and maybe, if it is critical, they will sell and then lease it back. So that's the selling assets piece. These could be non-critical assets. These could be, critical assets, but selling it to someone and then leasing it so that you pay a rental and not having to bear the entire cost, capex turning into opex kind of a situation. Then the second thing is going to be around refinancing some of these assets. So taking a loan, short-term loan could be another option in terms of refinancing. There are many other financial institutions, financial tools that you can use in order to refinance existing assets. You can look at loan against inventory. You can look at many other financial instruments to bring in additional cash, right? So that's the second way that you can bring in cash. And of course, one very important way to bring in additional cash is to increase sales. Now there comes things that as an IT organization, what can we do to improve the sales of the organization, right? So maybe this is another way for us to quickly share on the mural. What do you think as IT organizations we can do in order to increase the sales of finished goods in our organizations? I'm assuming everyone on this call is from the IT organizations, right? Is there someone who's not from the IT organization in your company?
How is the manufacturing industry?
I want to Zoom call.
That's okay, manufacturing. Yeah. But from either IT or manufacturing, right? Yeah,
No,
okay.
we
Yeah,
are from
Murali.
IT team of manufacturing industry.
Correct. Absolutely. No, but ultimately, what can IT do to help your company sell faster, better, or more? Is the question that I'm coming to, right? So if you look at it from a strategy perspective, how do you increase sales? So I think absolutely right. Understand the customer. You need to figure out a way to understand what does the customer really want, right? So there are 4 easy and simple strategies to improve sales typically. So one is you create new channels. So this is where, for example, you can create a web channel, online channel for your company to start selling. So most companies today have online web presence already created. If not created, then maybe it is time to create one. So that is creating an additional channel for your company to start selling. So it could be also about creating a portal on existing channels. So for example, some companies may decide it might take a lot of time for them to build the online portal. So why not go to the Amazons of the world or the Flipkarts of the world and make our products available on those platforms, right? So that is one way, which is new channel, creating new channels. Creating new markets is another way that you can actually look at doing. So in this case, what happens is, you look at existing products that you have and think about where else can this products be used? Who else can use this product? Where can these products be sold to where we are not selling right now? I do not know, I do not have an answer for every one of the industries that we are talking about right now. But if you actually creatively think about it, every product that you have or every problem that you have, the solution is a problem for someone else. So someone else's problem could be your solution as well. So where is that place, or which is that market that you can actually go out and sell to? So for example, today, automotive industry as an industry is facing a lot of difficulty, right? So if you take that, if you take, let's say for example, a Hero MotoCorp, I don't know whether someone from Hero MotoCorp is on the call, but I would assume that even if they are, they'll pardon me using them as an example. So today, all their sales happen through dealers, right? And these dealers are spread across the country, irrespective of where they are. So can they create an online portal where customer can actually order the bike and the bike can get delivered to their doorsteps? It is not so simple as just creating the portal. There also needs to be backend processes that need to be put in place as well. That is where the IT team can play a big role to make sure that everything kind of seamlessly flows and is able to kind of leverage technology to create these business processes so that these new channels can be created. So let's look at new markets. So today, bikes are primarily sold to individuals, right? So what happens if you start selling this, not selling this as a product, but selling this as a service, which is instead of someone paying and buying the bike, can you sell number of kilometers that you drive? So irrespective of which you pick a model, and then per kilometer you charge for someone to use the model. So that's something that nobody has tried this before, but in times of crisis like this, people are open to crazy ideas. And you never know, there are already trucks which do this. So if trucks can be done or sold that way, can the same model not be used for two-wheelers or cars? Same way, I'm sure that even in industrial manufacturing scenarios, we have seen boiler companies, instead of selling boilers, flipping and saying that we will not sell you, we will not implement boiler plants for you, but we will sell you the gas that is required in terms of the output that you require from the boiler machines, and we will maintain and manage the boiler at your site. So that is creating new products or new services. I know a lot of IT organizations have also created new services by flipping to provide your services to other customers, because over a period of time, I'm sure you would have developed a lot of skill sets, a lot of IP inside of your team, which other customers really want. So can you create a small business wherein instead of just using your IT services to service just your organization, can you pivot it and make it into a separate business unit, which can then bring in additional cash as well? So that's creating new products or services. And of course, the last one is, can you identify new partnerships? One of the ways to do it is to, instead of creating your own online web presence, you partner with Amazons and the Flipkarts of the world. Another way to look at this entire thing is, uh, who is your customer today? Where is your customer spending their time? And what are they buying in addition or in replacement to what you're selling? And is there a way for you to partner with them and go together as a joint offer and sell this together? I'm sure you would have already seen some of the advertisements where there is a washing machine provider and there is a washing machine powder. They market their products together, right? Saying that for this washing machine, we recommend this washing powder. This is a very simple partnership that comes into play. Uh, for example, I know this has happened in Surat. In Surat, there is this shop which sells high-end saris, which are like 20,000, 25,000, 50,000, 2 lakhs, 5 lakhs worth of saris. And when they sell their saris, they tell their customers that for a particular year, from the time that they buy for one full year, every month the sari they get a free laundry for that sari. What do you call uh, uh, I'm forgetting the service. What do you do for your suit or your expensive dresses? Um, uh,
Is it a
Dry
dry
clean.
clean?
Dry clean, correct. So they
Dry clean,
offered
yeah.
1 year, yeah. So they offered one dry cleaning for that sari free every month, along with the sari. So this is again, they partnered with us, a dry cleaner, and they told him that someone bringing just their sari will not bring in just their sari. They will bring in additional clothes as well. So you get additional businesses. And if they don't bring in the additional sari, I will pay for that dry cleaning. So very simple, because once you buy a expensive sari, you are sure to get it dry cleaned at some point in time. So, and you are also sure that it will not get dry cleaned every month. But making this a complimentary offer makes it slightly more attractive for your target audience to actually make that decision. So this actually converts people who are sitting on the bench to kind of lean in and buy. So anyone else has seen any such offer in the market that you see is an interesting partnership? Someone wants to kind of quickly wants to share anything that you've seen like that? Yeah, Amit, I understand. We are talking about once the lockdown is over, right? So what do you do once the lockdown is over? Of course, in lockdown, I'm sure even if someone buys, you cannot deliver the vehicles to them in any case. And in any case, you are not supposed to be going out on on the road driving your vehicles as well. So we are talking about what is it that we can do today, uh, plan today, so that when the lockdown ends, we are ready with a strategy to kind of go out and do something which is helpful for the organization to survive and thrive from that perspective. So, um, you know, what is it that we offer which can be broken down? So you will find many organizations which will now also look at potentially breaking down their products and services and saying, instead of buying my whole product, here is a piecemeal which you can buy for significantly less. So one of the things that will become an outcome of all of this that has happened is people will become very particular about where they spend their money on. So typically you'll find that health is going to be critically important. Conserving your cash and finances and savings are going to be more and more important. Redeploying your cash into areas which are critical both from a personal aspect as well as from a professional organizational aspect is going to be critical as well. So that is something that is the last step that I talk about when I say what can you do to increase throughput by redeploying your cash, right? So that's whatever cash you've saved, what is it that you can do to redeploy that cash to improve your throughput? When I say throughput, I mean two things, right? So one is improving your ability to take your raw material and convert that into a finished good that is sold and money, cash realized. So that is what I mean by throughput. So any and all cash today that you have, both already employed or deployed and saved as as a way in terms of reducing your cash outflows or increasing your cash inflows, needs to be deployed simply to improve your throughput. So how do you do that? So how do you improve your throughput is something that we need to look at. So there are two ways to do that, right? So one is to improve your processes, which is, this is a great time for you to relook at everything that your organization does, every little sacred thing that your organization does. So if you look at it over a period of time, what happens is all of us develop habits, right? Some of them good, some of them bad. Just like individuals, organizations also develop certain habits, some good, some not so good. As we grow older, we also put on weight, right? So you kind of, so organizations also put on weight as they go along. So these are processes which at one point in time made sense, processes, policies, at one point in time they made sense. But now they don't. But nobody has stopped to question or think about whether or not this policy still makes sense, or whether or not this process really needs to be done in this particular way. Today, the technology has come a long way in terms of what it can do and what it cannot do from a process perspective, that almost, I would even say, more than 50% of all processes can either be eliminated, optimized, automated, or robotized, right? So today we have technologies which can actually take a particular process and completely end-to-end automate the process, whether it is through intelligent business process management kind of a tool that SAP provides, whether it is through integrating all your technology solutions in a way that data flows seamlessly from one system to the other, and integrating workflows in your organization, in your processes, that kind of automate a lot of processes. And for things that are required to be done manually, there are RPAs or bots today which are available, which can actually automate a lot of that. So what you need to do now, once you have taken care of conserving cash by eliminating all cash outflows that you can, by reducing or redeploying, renegotiating where you can, refinancing assets, selling assets that you can, and generating new cash coming in, figuring out a way to improve sales. That's a very clear project that most organizations will take, which is to how can you use technology to improve sales of your organization. So those four ways, by creating new channels, creating new partners, creating new products or services, creating or addressing new markets, and then comes the processes, right? So this is where IT as an organization can play a very, very important role. Can you look at the entire process in your organization and figure out which ones can be completely done away with, which is to eliminate, which ones can be completely optimized in terms of the number of steps going down significantly, and then can they be automated, what all can be automated, and where all can you use robotic process automation to kind of automate or robotize those processes, right? So that's one area that you can look at, and this is something that SAP and all other technology providers actually can bring in a lot of value. But the processes that needs to be addressed needs to come from you. As an organization, you will need to look at every single process, every single policy in your organization. So maybe I'll stop here for a couple of minutes for people to kind of share what you are thinking in terms of, can you give one example of what process or policy in your organization can you eliminate? One example of what could be optimized, one example of what could be automated, and one example of what could be robotized. You can use the chat in the Zoom instead of going back to the mural. I think it's simpler for us to use the chat here rather than use the mural from that perspective, I guess. So on the chat, yeah. So sourcing to pay could be automated. Yeah, that's right, Amit. You are absolutely right. The entire process can be automated. There are many technologies that are available to completely take care of end-to-end sourcing and procurement, right from contract, managing the contract to ensuring that you are able to do auctions to all of that. Yeah, that's right. Absolutely right. So anything that can be eliminated in your processes or policies. So I can tell you one example of elimination. So in SAP, we used to have this long process of generation of PO through RPA. So that's a good process to be completely robotized, so to say. That's a good example. Thank you. Thanks, Puneet. So in SAP, we used to have this long process of approval when it comes to buying stuff for use within the organization. So at one point in time, SAP as an organization decided that until a certain level, there is no approvals required at all. So for example, anything that I spend until about, I think $3,500 or $5,000, it doesn't require anybody to approve. So I can just simply go raise a shopping cart and the PO is automatically generated. So the entire approval process of someone raising a request, someone going through the request and deciding whether or not to approve. Once it is approved, then someone actually creating the PO, sending it to the vendor. Everything is eliminated. I create a shopping cart, I release it, the PO is sent to the vendor. So the entire process of approval is kind of uptaken. Yeah, correct. No approval required. Absolutely right. So there is one more sales order booking through chatbot. Absolutely. So, Amit, it's not just about SAP being cash rich. I think it is also about looking at the past and seeing how many approvals did it actually require. It is also about the time that it takes of the entire senior management to look at and all of that as well. So there is a whole
that's
lot
correct.
more than cash.
Yeah, but the amount you're talking about, $5,000, still a lot for us.
Yeah. So it can be different. So
Yeah.
it could be, 25,000, 50,000. It could
We
be,
could try to
whatever.
eliminate the, let's say, levels, yeah, because I see
Yeah,
that people are approving up to 5 levels. That is really not necessary in this case.
correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Whatever can be eliminated, right?
Yeah.
Whatever can be optimized, whatever can be automated. And this is where I think the technology and the IT teams can play a very significant role. Sales order booking through chatbot is absolutely a brilliant idea. All you need to know is a few things in order for you to create a sales order in SAP. So today you can, once you have that on a chatbot, the bot should actually be able to go ahead and create the entire sales order and create and release the delivery order based on checks and balances as well. So that's a good idea as well in terms of automating or bots. Use of bots as well. Centralized order processing, that's also a good idea. So the point that I'm trying to make here is this is where the bulk of what technology can actually do plays a role, right? So one, that is improving your processes. Then comes the next significant place where you can actually have an impact, which is improving productivity. So what do I mean by improving productivity? So process is one, which is data and information flowing is what processes do. Productivity is people, right? So how can you make people more productive? You can augment their existing capabilities. This is where you will find machine learning and AI-based algorithms and decision support tools coming into play, where you are able to create support systems for these people to actually leverage on and take decisions faster, thereby improving their productivity. Then comes add new capabilities. So what is some of the things that you can add which earlier people were not able to do, but today people can do? This is where robots, physical robots, can come into play. This is also where you'll find augmented reality and virtual reality will come into play. There are many POCs that have been done. This is also where IoT and all the data streams that come into play. So what all of that can do is provide information and decision making support for people at the fringes of your organization who actually do the end work to make better decisions and be a lot more productive. And last but not the least, creative destruction is what I'm talking about. So one of the things that most organizations fail to do is they fail to stop doing things which are no longer productive, because that's the way we've been doing, that's the way everyone has been done. So nobody wants to think about what is it that we can actually stop, so that once you stop doing something, you can actually take that resource, you can actually take that cash deployed there and redeploy it at a place where it has a much better output and return on the cash employed as well. What I also mean by that is there are a lot of sacred procedures and sacred cows in a lot of businesses, right? So um, let me just take a very crude and rudimental example of what do I mean by sacred procedures. So let's take the act of brushing your teeth. So there is a place where you do that. There is a way, or there is a process that you follow, that you do that you follow for that. And there is also a time in particular sequence that you do that, right? So you do not, you typically, if you are like most normal people, you will first wet your brush, put on your paste, again wet it, then brush your teeth, and you typically do it in front of a mirror or at a wash basin early in the morning, maybe after you finish a meal, or maybe at the night before you go to bed. There's nothing else. These are all sacred sequences. And if you can break sacred sequences, is where breakthrough products, breakthrough processes, and great insights come into picture. If you look at some of the most recent innovations that most organizations come out with, they are all usually breaking some of these sacred sequences. So the question that you need to ask is, what are some of these sacred sequences or sacred processes that your organization follows? It need not be just the manufacturing organization. It need not be the procurement function. It need not be just the sales function. It can also be the IT function. What are some of these sacred sequences, some of these sacred processes, some of these habitual things that you as an organization, as a team, do, which can be done away with, which can be destroyed, which can be completely eliminated, and not just in terms of elimination for the sake of elimination, but rethought in a way creatively, so that it becomes a way for you to completely rethink and have a significant impact from that perspective. So that's probably what I have come across, I have planned for today. Any questions, any thoughts, any comments about whatever we have spoken today? Uh, uh, it's a good forum for us to also have a conversation. Whatever I've shared is just to set the context. Now, the point of these conversation is for us to learn from each other about what you are planning to do in your organization. What do you see your organization already doing? And where do you see more that can be done? The idea is you can learn from each other as well. And that is where the true learning and the true power of this community comes from. So I'll unmute everyone for now, and maybe if someone wants to go and share What do they think of the 5 or 6 things that we spoke about? Does it make sense? Not make sense? Do you think you're already doing something on these terms? Do you think there is something that you found which was interesting and you want to dive deeper on? Open to any questions, comments, feedbacks.
Mukesh, we are actually we have a pipeline of lot of SAP project right now because our
Mhm.
company is actually going through the digital transformation, and
Okay.
we are like Ariba, we are considering Ariba success factors. Yeah, and there are other
Mhm.
projects also which will be taken care of this year and next year, like moving to the HANA database and then slowly moving to S4, etc.
Uh-huh.
What I find most difficult is the uh, choosing of the architecture, yeah, and then
Mhm.
finding out about how do we place this kind of architecture, yeah. Do I go
Yeah.
for some other supplier? Do I go with SAP? Yeah, so all this kind
Mhm.
of things.
Mm.
Yeah,
So,
so
so I will be a little, neutral in this aspect.
mhm,
If I do not know whether you had joined when I shared this particular page that I had put together,
mhm,
so my my thinking as far as possible is to follow this, which is identify activities or the process or the value chain in your organization that adds value to your customer and brings in additional cash into your organization and prioritize based on that. Now, I know as a matter of fact that almost all of them can fall into that gambit. Uh, but uh, from an architecture perspective, um, what I can say is the following, which is build from the foundation. So the foundation is always going to be your ERP, and build outside from there on. And when you are actually building that, you should actually not just do a technical migration from your ECC to S4. That's the place where you can actually do a lot of the eliminate, automate, optimize, robotize kind of pruning of your processes. If I may use a very uh, uh, how do I put it, rudimentary example. Okay, so organizations and processes. Okay, let me put it this way. Organizations are like a like a garden. Okay, so uh, 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 even IT architecture, building an IT architecture is also like building a garden. Okay, so you need to know every single thing that you put in the garden, you put it there for a reason, and everything else should gel with everything else, right? So that's the fundamental thinking that you need to have when it comes to architecting the solution. So there
okay.
needs to be a back
Okay,
and flow.
if you have time, I can share a case. Yeah.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so let's say right now, what happened in the past 12 months is that, not past 12 months, I mean, the size of the database of the ECC was increasing, yeah, but that
Hmm.
was in a constant curve. Now, you
Hmm.
know that because of the COVID, so what happened
Hmm.
is that my invoicing or finance people, they have started attaching invoices in the, let's say, P2P Miro invoice. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
from last 2 months, the size of the data base has grown exponentially. I mean, so I could not believe it. So I had to
Hmm.
find out why this happened. So then
Hmm.
I had to find out that, okay, what can I do about it? Yeah.
Hmm.
So I thought about, okay, we are considering a SAP Ariba. So maybe this problem can be solved from there. Then I was also
Hmm.
considering SAP DMS, yeah, document
Hmm.
management
Hmm.
system, because
Yeah.
then you can also integrate with other modules, etc., and you can give it to other people who are there in the organization,
Yeah.
etc. And now I am evaluating both, but it's really not easy,
Hmm.
yeah. So
Yeah.
either you take help from outside or SAP or your partner, yeah. So that's a kind of dilemma. And then I am
So
also
I think
evaluating. Yeah.
go on, please go on. You
Yeah,
are
so
evaluating?
I was also evaluating some of the electronic document management systems from outside, but then the challenge is that how do we plug in with SAP? Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
These kind of challenges I always find as an SAP architect. Always.
So yeah. So anyone wants to answer or help Amit out here before I kind of chime in with my 2 cents?
I can help in other way. Beyond SAP, we had created another formulation here. In Miro, whatever he is telling, he is adding the invoices. No? That will be stored in one of the FTP folder, and the link will be provided in a text field over Miro process. Whenever the problem arises, they want to refer that invoice document. Through that FTP link, they can view that invoice data. Now we were planning for DMS, SAP DMS.
Yeah.
Present solution, what we are doing is this one. Miro will have a reference text field which has the FTP path of that file.
Yeah, that's okay. Thank you for that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think one of the things, Amit, that we are trying to do with Indus as well. So this is a burning need for not just you, but for a lot of SAP customers. And if you look at some of the other larger implementations of SAP or larger customers of SAP, where there is like 25 different SAP solutions running in their landscape, and there are another 25 or 30 different non-SAP solutions also running in their landscapes. Some of them on the cloud, some of them on premise, some of them on private cloud. How do you architect this entire thing in such a way that, as I told you, right, the analogy of a garden, everything needs to be there for a reason, and it should look good, it should work and seamlessly kind of work. Also like an automobile, right? So if you put something there, it has a very specific purpose, and everything is interoperable, right? So what we are trying to do, Amit, is put together a program, what we are calling as Enterprise Architects Program as part of Indus. Hopefully by October, we will be able to launch this. This was first tried out in the American SAP user group, and now I'm trying to get the same guys to come over here in India and deliver a 3-day event in India, where we are going to talk about exactly all of these things, right? So how do you actually take your business strategy and from there create a enterprise technology strategy, and not just make it once, but keep it as a living document. As your strategy changes, your enterprise architecture strategy should also change and adapt according to your business strategy, because it exists to serve your business strategy as well. Now, so that's a program that we are planning to run in October if things go well. Otherwise, we can also try and bring that as a virtual format, where over a period of 10-15 days, we do 1 hour every day or 2 hours every day, and over a period of 15, 2 weeks or 3 weeks, we cover all the topics as well. So if anybody in this call thinks that this is an interesting topic and you would like to, you think we should definitely, bring it earlier than later,
Definitely
maybe,
do it
a quick,
earlier. Yeah,
yes,
that's why.
Special thanks to Puneet for giving an idea of chatbot. See, we have centralized the order processing with call center basis, mobile apps, and online web series, whatever it is. We are capturing all those information and bringing it to SAP sales order. But chatbot, we have not thought, and we will try to implement that also. Thanks, Puneet, for this.
yeah, that's the whole idea of doing this, right? So,
Yeah,
Thank
Mukesh,
you.
I
Thank
would like to have this session earlier, yeah, that you were talking
yeah,
about.
okay,
SAP architect session, yeah.
sure. Anyone else thinks this is an important thing that we need to bring earlier than later? Okay, so again, Amit, I think first principles thinking is what probably will help you there as well. I'm sure that you're familiar with what first principles thinking is all about. There is a whole lot of things that as I said, three critical things that you need to keep in mind. The systems need to be as simple as possible. They need to be speaking to each other as much as possible without too much customization, and they need to be as standard as possible. So if you can keep these three simple principles in mind, and basis that take whatever decision when it comes to architecture, I think that should, for now, be helpful in deciding what architecture would be the best for your organization.
Yeah.
Also, when you put in the architecture, you should also not look at doing just for today. The architecture should also cover for what you're looking at accomplishing over the next 18 to 24 months as well, because that's what is the typical lifeline or lifetime for you to plan for an enterprise architecture from that perspective. So if you are looking at procurement as a key area and key area of improvement, then yes, you should go with Ariba and all the different Ariba solutions that come with it. If you think it is not a strategic area and probably all you need to do today is to maintain your database size, then maybe what Abhinath said is also a good idea. What you can also do is there is a enterprise support services that SAP offers, which is around database resizing, and so that's something that you can use. You can request for that service, and the enterprise support team will actually do a DB optimization kind of a engagement with you to help you optimize your existing database as well. So there are many ways in which you can do that, as long as that is the only thing that you want to do.
Yeah, yeah, no, but yeah, I think Ariba is more strategic decision that has been taken already. So
Yeah, so then that's
yeah,
probably the better way to go ahead and do it, right?
yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Anyone else on this call has any comments, questions, thoughts? Okay. So concern, I think any new or even approved capex for IT may get reduced due to this COVID disturbance. In my opinion, budgets, though approved before breakdown, shall be revisited. Planned capex shall get scrapped. My opinion, as cash retaining shall be priority. Absolutely right, Pradeep. I think, and rightly so as well, right? Because survival first. So you need to survive in order for you to be able to revive your business and then kind of thrive. And first call of port is to survive, which is to relook at everything that you were planning to do and decide to do only those which are extremely critical. If you remember at the start of the presentation, I spoke about identifying your value drivers and where it is that you will actually drive value for your customers and get more cash in. So you need to be absolutely sure that you do not cut those areas either. So Gartner calls it three stages, right? So they call cost cutting, which is emotional. Sorry, yeah, go on. Okay, so so Gartner calls it that, you first things that people do is cut cost, which is emotional, which is short term, and which may or may not be the right thing to do. Second thing that they say is cost optimization, which is where you relook at cost, you kind of save cash where you can, you renegotiate terms, you kind of redeploy cash and all of that. And the third one that they talk about is value optimization, which is where you pick and choose the projects where you actually invest in. You do not stop everything. You do not, for example, you do not, stop all hiring. You still hire selectively for places which will actually help you bring in more cash. So the thing is this, right? So startups are very familiar with this, what they call as runway. So they have a certain amount of cash which allows them for a limited number of runway that their organization has. Let's assume it takes about 100,000, 1 lakh rupees a day for you to run your organization, and you have about, let's say, 10 lakhs in your bank, which means you have runway of 10 days, right? So anything that can improve this runway or increase this runway from 10 days to 20 days to 30 days to 45 days to 75 days needs to be done. So whether it is eliminating costs, removing costs, stalling projects, which may bring in value 3 years down, yeah, absolutely stop it for all you know. But if it is strategic and if you think that is critical for you to achieve the incoming cash flow, then please go ahead and do it. Again, as I said, CapEx expense is important depending upon what that CapEx is supposed to do for your business. So some organizations will definitely stop all CapEx expenses. Some of them will selectively decide which ones to go ahead and which ones not to go ahead. And mostly you will find that anything which has got quick ROI is what will get approved first. So you're right, survival first, revival next, and thrive is the last. Survive, revive, thrive. That is the way it is going to work. So any solutions we discuss shall suggest work around within what we have. Many companies may not be add new technologies like RPA or chatbot, etc. So maybe these services as part of services to get it from someone instead of CapEx spend. Um, yeah, Pradeep, I think that's a conversation that you should be having with within your organization as well. Some of these are quick wins. So as I said, anything that will give you a quick win will actually get green lighted faster. Not big spend and at the same time quick win. RPAs and chatbots are like that. You can actually deploy one in a matter of weeks rather than months or years, and they don't cost much comparatively compared to a ERP or a Ariba installation. Yeah. So any other questions, comments? So I'm just going to launch a poll. So maybe if I would really appreciate if you can just share your feedback on this session as well. But meanwhile, if I were to ask you, what are the three most difficult things when it comes to digital transformation for you that you are facing in your organization? So we're talking about driving transformation, right? So what are those challenges that you face so that I can bring in either people who have already done or addressed that in their organization to come and share how they did it, or I can bring in maybe thought leaders or authors or consultants who have actually addressed that and come and talk about how to address them. So, but for that, I will need to know what are the challenges that you face in your organization when you are trying to drive digital transformation.
Uh,
Biggest challenge is sponsorship and showing business value. Yeah, absolutely right. So, okay, let me flip this question. So how do you show business value? Let's take an S for example. Thanks, Amit, for bringing this up. I think it is a very, very important, important point to discuss, right? So technology by itself is never going to show an ROI for itself. But at the same time, there are times when there are certain things which are table stakes, right? So there are three ways, if you ask me, of building a business case, right? So the first one is having an ROI discussion. Okay, I'm investing X amount of dollars into this project, which will result in 1, 2, 3, 4 things, which means that I will be able to generate additional cash flow coming in, which is, if I spend 10 lakhs, I will get the 10 lakhs back in, let's say, 3 months or 4 months or 5 months, and that is your ROI calculation. Now, in order for you to build that, you will need to understand what are those 1, 2, 3 things that you're going to impact. Now, if you typically look, there are always answers to those questions in what your senior management wants to do as an organization, in what your CEO wants to drive, what your CFO wants to drive. Let's say, for example, in an organization which is completely focused on top line growth. Okay, so everyone talks about top line growth. How do we increase our revenue, double digit growth, top line, sales, more sales, more sales, more sales. Now there, the very fundamental question that you need to look at is, will this technology help me increase sales or increase revenue for my company? and how. And that is where you can sit down and work with your either account managers or your vendors and ask them, okay, this is our key priority. You tell us how can you help us drive this particular aspect. So let's say, for example, S4. Will S4 by itself drive top line growth? Maybe not. So if you are actually looking at top line growth, maybe S4 is not the right solution right now. Maybe it is required, but at a more fundamental level, at a foundation level. But what you require immediately when it comes to your top line growth is probably something which can help you actually address your top line growth. But if you are in an organization which requires heavy amount of engineering in order for you to increase your sales, then absolutely S4 will be key. Because what will S4 do is S4 will actually transform the way you organize within your organization, the various functions of production, manufacturing, planning, and all the other different back-end processes, so to say. So if supply chain is your strength, then of course S4 is going to be a critical role in that aspect, because it not only comes with a lot of automated, with the ability to eliminate, automate, optimize, business processes, robotize business processes, but it also gives you the ability to make your enterprise leaner, and that is where the business case will come from. If your organization, let's say for example, is producing steel, okay, and is manufacturing to order, absolutely your ERP is a key resource, and having an S4, building an S4 case from that perspective is going to be a very, very important way forward. Let's assume your organization is not looking at top line growth. Your organization is obsessed about profitability. Okay, so everyone talks about profitability. We want to be profitable. We want to increase our profit before tax, profit after tax. Now, then what happens in that case? So then where you need to look at is what technology brings in productivity and improved process efficiency. So that is where you will find your business case. So that is when you need to look at inventory, rotations, in inventory turnovers. You're looking at finished good turnovers. You're looking at cash flow reductions. You're looking at cash turnovers. You're looking at cost of cash deployed and things like that. That is where you will find your business case. And again, is that a place where S4 can play a role as ERP? Absolutely, it can play a role there in ERP. If again, that is also the place where your procurement processes will play a role. Looking at Ariba could be a area along with S4 that could actually bring in significant cost savings, thereby increasing your bottom line. So there are certain organizations which are obsessed about partners. So for example, Microsoft, they are obsessed about sales, but they're obsessed about selling through partners, right? So then all your focus needs to be, all your thinking in terms of how do you develop a business case needs to be about how can you enable your partners better, whether it is through building a partner portal, whether it is integrating partner business processes inside of your organization, whether it is bringing visibility of partner businesses within your organization, whether it is dealer business portals or whatever. So that is where you will then find your business case, and that input I think comes from you understanding your business better. You cannot just take a technology and build a business case just for the heck of building a business case. It is possible in one place, and I'll tell you where it is possible. So wherever the technology use becomes table stakes, I'll give you an example also. So I was in a call yesterday where there was a experience sharing where SAP guys who were doing a co-innovation project with BMW were sharing about the project and in terms of what exactly are we doing with BMW at a global level. And one of the things that they said kind of intrigued me because BMW as an organization is known to drive this entire thing around business case and a viable business case and a 18-month business case really strongly for every single project that they do. They said that there was no business case requested for S4 transforming their transition to S4. I asked them, why? Why do you think there was no request or there was no proof requested by BMW for transition to their S4 system? And the account manager told me because they know that if they don't do it, they are doomed. So it becomes a table stake. Because currently the way they are operating is they have some 25 different instances of ERP running in their organization. And getting all of them to talk to each other, and not just, I mean, this is just SAP ERP, but there's a whole lot of systems that are running in their organizations. If they don't get all of that working together seamlessly, most of the time is going in actually, making sure that each one of these systems is talking to each other. And that is a significant loss in productivity. And they know that, moving to S4 is not just about business case anymore. It is about business survival. And that is where then you don't need a business case. I can tell you one more instances where the business case was very simple. If your organization is obsessed about staying relevant to in terms of technology adoption, early adopter of technology, or whether you want to be relevant to top talent, top young talent, then you need to be at the cutting edge of technology, and then it becomes a table stake as well. If you expect someone right out of college to come and work on your ECC screens, creating a sales order using VA01, VA02, creating a delivery advice, and then running all of that processes on your laptop, on your PCs using keyboards and mouse, I think you are in for a roots shock. You will not find people doing that anymore. So again, then Fiori, revitalizing your UI for your employees then becomes a critical aspect. So once you're decided that you're going to do that, I'm sure that there are other things in your organization that can be plugged in to build a business case as well. Does that make sense? And does that answer your question, Amin?
Yeah, it does. I think what I liked about your comment was that first find out the priority and then start building from there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the most
Absolutely.
important learning I take from this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the only way to build a business case. And not just to build a business case, but also to justify that, right? And also
Yes.
to realize that. So it is easy for you to build a business case using Excel sheets and getting approval. But then when it comes to real life implementation, you then get stuck in terms of adoption issues. You then get stuck in terms of, not being able to realize the value that you had promised that you will get.
Yes, correct.
You lose your credibility then. Then the
Yeah.
next one becomes difficult.
Yeah. Thank you.
So any other questions, comments? I think we still have about 5 to 7 minutes to go. Any last questions, comments? Okay, if not, again, I'll like to reiterate. I'll finish with what I started with. As I said, survival, revival, and then success or thrive, right? So that is the way you need to be looking at, organizations should be looking at things. And you as an individual who's contributing in the organization should also be thinking along those lines as well. And that is where you will find that, figure out how you can reduce cash outflow, figure out how you can help increase cash inflow, figure out how you can improve return on cash employed, um, and of course, do not forget that you need to remember that you do not cut anything that actually provides value to your customers and also to that can bring in cash. Just keep these three things in mind, and I think organizations will be resilient enough and will actually be able to tide away the current storms and and come out stronger. I'll kind of end with a quote. I remember reading this. that humans are resilient, organizations are not. What do I mean by that is as human beings, we can be extremely resilient to any change that can be thrown against us. You throw us in a new place, we will survive. You throw us in a new country, we will survive. You throw us COVID, we will survive. You throw us on AIDS, Ebola, we will survive. But a lot of organizations are brittle in terms of how they run their organizations, and they create a lot of flack while they kind of run their organizations. And that is why you'll find that organizations are very, a lot of organizations actually go under when they come against situations like what we are right now looking at. Extraordinary crises actually tend to kill a lot of businesses, but then whichever business is able to survive, revive quickly, and is able to come stronger on the other side are the ones which create the massive opportunity and billion-dollar opportunities. Most billion-dollar organizations are created in times of crisis. Just remember that. And they do it by exactly following this template. So with that, I kind of thank all of you for your time and for your feedback. I hope the time that you spent on this call with me was useful and you did learn something that you can actually go and put in practice in your organization. So any feedback, any thoughts, just please feel free to drop me an email or and put it in the chat. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abhinath. Yeah, stay safe. Thanks. Take care. Bye-bye. I'm just going to stay around for a couple of minutes in case someone wants to talk to me.